Moves to impeach the president of South Korea are well underway after he took the country and the world by surprise when he briefly declared martial law. Yoon Suk Yeol made the announcement in a late-night unscheduled press conference.
I declare martial law to protect the Free Republic of Korea from the threat of North Korean communist forces, to eradicate the despicable pro-North Korean anti-state forces that are plundering the freedom and happiness of our people, and to protect the free constitutional order.
The military then responded by entering the National Assembly building as lawmakers and protesters gathered outside. 190 MPs held an emergency vote to lift the declaration, and President Yoon ordered the army to withdraw. He is now facing impeachment proceedings filed by opposition MPs. Now, the leader of the opposition has warned that the president could try to declare martial law again.
They will try it again by addressing their shortcomings after they have failed once. When that time comes, we, the citizens, along with the Democratic Party of Korea and our lawmakers, will step forward and fight to ensure this victory.
And John Lee is editor of Korea Pro and joins us now from Seoul. John, good to have you on the program. Now, straight up, what was President Yoon Suk Yeol thinking when he declared martial law?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. We're not quite sure what he was thinking. Now, you just played a clip of what the president had said just before he declared martial law. He described North Korea forces, and actually in Korean he also added the phrase anti-state forces. Now, these are typical phrases that he have used for a long time, but they usually refer to opposition lawmakers. And the reasons that he came up with was really parliamentary gridlock. The opposition parties have attempted to impeach several of his ministers and several prosecutors as well. And they've also gone after his wife for alleged misconduct, which she has vetoed numerous times. And it's the end of the year, which means that in Korea, that's when the government and the opposition parties are always wrangling about the budget. And this time around, the opposition parties have decided to take on a more robust approach in trying to strong-arm the presidents to see the budget proposal their way. And these are the reasons that the president gave to actually declare martial law, which has led a lot of people to scratch their heads, because these are really procedural things that actually happen in democracy quite a bit. And for the president to have actually invoked martial law over this has caused a lot of people to be very confused.
And of course, I mean, something like this, you see soldiers on the streets in the very early hours after he declared martial law. What do these things conjure up? Do these things conjure up the days of military dictatorship under Chun Doo-hwan and Park Chung-hee?
Oh, yes. For a lot of people, the last time South Korea had a martial law actually invoked, it was in 1979 to 1980. And that was when martial law actually meant something very serious. It had a lasting and very tragic impact on South Korea. People died when that happened. People lost their freedoms. And so because so many people actually still remember all of that, and it's within people's living memory, when the word martial law first came on TV, people thought, is this a joke? Is the president being serious about it? And when they saw troops and police officers in front of the National Assembly building, oh yes, this caused a lot of people to have very unpleasant flashbacks.
Yes, and of course he used martial law. It's a very blunt instrument to try to deploy in a situation for the president who is having his own political troubles. Do we now see him being impeached? Do you think that this is a foregone conclusion, not just by the virtue of the opposition's majority in the parliament, but also members of his own party?
If the president does not get impeached, the only reason why that would be is because he would be resigning before he can get impeached. Now, we have to remember that the president, before he was president, he was a prosecutor, and he had helped to lead the charge against former presidents and actually put those former presidents in prison. And so he knows what the impeachment process is like. He knows how ugly it can get and how very unpleasant it can be. And I doubt that he would want to actually put himself through that same process that he put others into. And so there's a chance that if he decides to be stubborn, yes, he will be impeached, and there will be several obstacles along the way, such as the lack of a number of justices in the Constitutional Court. But it will be very ugly and drawn out. But if he decides to resign, it might be much quicker. So those are really the only two options that are available to the president at the moment.
And what could possibly happen to him after impeachment? Looks like it's an inevitable outcome there, but what could proceed after?
Well, South Korea has a very long history of presidents not really enjoying their retirement after they leave office. They either get exiled, or they get assassinated, or they get imprisoned. And so for President Yoon, things are not looking that great for him after he leaves office.
Yes, they don't look good for him, but we're seeing cycle after cycle of presidents. In the case of Park Geun-hye, in the case of Lee Myung-bak, they get convicted, they get sent to prison, but then a president who is in power then pardons them. Is this something that perhaps he's expecting as well?
It's not impossible. It's always within the realm of possibility. But that being said, neither of those two former presidents that you just mentioned had tried to invoke martial law. Now, there were rumors that when President Park Geun-hye was being impeached, that some of her advisors around her were actually considering martial law, but it was only within the consideration phase. It never actually was put into practice. President Yoon did. And so for any future South Korean presidents to pardon Yoon, it will require a bit more political capital than it had taken him and his predecessors to pardon their predecessors.
We're now seeing pictures of protesters having scuffles with soldiers on the streets. Does this also throw into question military leadership?
Something that is being considered right now, because the defense minister actually just resigned 30 minutes ago before we started this call. The defense minister had apologized, and he was saying that he was taking full responsibility. And apparently, now this is not yet confirmed, but some of the soldiers who were there were saying that they were told initially that they were part of a special military operation that was involving North Korean targets, but they found themselves very surprised when they were actually taken to the National Assembly. Now, this is hearsay at the moment, is not yet confirmed, but there has been a lot of contradictory reports coming from the officers, from the ministries, and from the soldiers as well.
Okay, and John, it's also barely been 20 hours since this entire thing unfolded, and we are seeing now live pictures from South Korea, vigils, people in candlelights, holding some sort of a silent protest. What's the atmosphere in Seoul like? And also, I wanted you to bring you back to what you felt when you first heard this happening in the late hours of Seoul.
Well, to answer the first question, how I felt angry when I saw images of soldiers smashing windows to actually try to storm the National Assembly. Like in America when we had January 6th, but this I felt much more viscerally because it was actually the soldiers who were being told to do this. And I felt infuriated, and I believe that a lot of South Koreans have shared my feelings about this. Right now in Seoul, there are tens of thousands of people who are carrying candlelights, and these candlelight protests goes back years. It's a long peaceful way of protest that South Koreans have perfected over the years. And this has been the preferred mode of protest anytime that they've been very upset with the political leadership. And we have seen this just come back with a vengeance just starting today. And it will really not go away until, in one way or another, the President Yoon Suk Yeol is no longer in office.
Yes, and of course, I want to ask as well, politically, what's happening with the political establishment here? How do South Koreans see the political establishment, whether it's the People Power Party or the president or the opposition that is in majority in the parliament? Will this rock the confidence of South Koreans as far as their political leaders are concerned?
Nor the president, nor Lee Jae Myung, who's the opposition leader, really enjoyed the very high ratings. Their ratings have always been low. Of course, the presidents have been much lower. In fact, they've been quite dismal. But because they've been so, the public has had such little faith in the political leaders that for a lot of people, while they were shocked at what happened last night, they're not entirely all that disappointed because they didn't really have high hopes for them at all to begin with anyway.
Okay, John Lee, really good to get your thoughts on what's happening in South Korea. It's something that we will be keeping a look at for the next few days, and the repercussions are certainly being felt across the world. John, thank you so much once again.
Thank you.